I intend to deliver every bit on the title of this video. I think that I found the most interesting and amazing detail in Persona 5's OST that has ever surfaced. And if I'm not correct in my assessment, I still believe that this video will go down as one of the most insane amounts of coincidences ever. I really think Occam's razor is on my side here, but whether you think that this is a conspiracy theory or end up believing me, I hope that you will enjoy the more than month worth of work and effort that my friend and I have been putting into researching and making sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. That being said, I'm going to be covering some more in-depth musical ideas, and so to appease both crowds of people familiar with music composition and just Persona music fans, this video will try to straddle the line so that it presents just enough evidence to appease everyone while not getting too bogged down with unnecessary details. I hope you all enjoy our hard work. This video will broadly not spoil any of the character details of Persona 5 as a whole, but will spoil some of the basic context and events of the final fight. So, let's get to it. Persona 5 has a very important motif, often used in crucial moments for the game. But what is a motif, you might ask? Well, to keep things simple but accurate, here's my friend I mentioned earlier, Shabu, who in a lot of ways made my research possible. He has a degree in music, as well as over 5 years of experience working professionally at composing music for both movies and television. So I'll let him explain what a motif is.
The definitions for a musical motif tend to vary slightly the further up in academia you go, but for this video we'll define it as the smallest musical structure that maintains recognizability and is still analyzable. On top of that, our defining traits will be melody, contour or shape, and rhythm. Motifs are super cool building blocks in music and can be used as motifs, obviously, or to make full phrases, themes, and even sometimes full pieces. When a motif appears in several different pieces, thematically representing a character, place, or idea, it is often referred to as a leitmotif.
When Persona 5's motif is used, it is normally highlighting both in context of the game's events around it, and in context to the pieces using it, making it often the emotional crux of the song it appears in. The first song I will point to is Hoshito Bokuro To, which you hear under the video right now. Hoshito Bokuro To, also known as With the Stars and Us, starts quiet and reserved and is played as the credits roll after beating the game. After about a minute of slowly building and remaining mostly relaxed, it explodes into a beautiful chorus. And the first 4 notes to explode there? Those notes that transition the song into the beautiful next segment is the motif. As Shabu said, motifs, or specifically leitmotifs as the one we're talking about today, are often used to convey character, places, or ideas, and that is one of a few different things I'm going to be bringing up that I want you to keep in mind as this video goes on. Now you may or may not be aware of this, but the extremely popular and emotional track Swear to My Bones is in a lot of ways a shorter instrumental version of the previous song that we talked about. As with the last song, I'm currently playing it while I'm speaking. Something to note though is not all of the melody is highlighted at first. There is a general piano and beat set, but until the piano ramps up later on to follow Hoshito Bokuro To's melody, the electric guitar covers for most of what would be the sung vocals. Except get this, the only 4 notes it highlights for a majority of the song is the motif. This should establish even more that these notes are significant in some way, being the lead-in to the chorus in Hoshi and now being the primary emphasized melody part for the guitar. But it doesn't start there. This song plays, notably, at the point where the confidants are yelling to the Phantom Thieves words of encouragement, which gives the thieves the strength to literally stand back up against the god of control and endure the pressure that they were facing. If you are currently wondering, okay, so maybe you've got a motif here, so what? Motifs are common. They're pretty normal when you're talking about a large series or game. I don't see how this is that big of a mystery or a discovery. Please just be patient with me a bit longer. We haven't got to the real reveals yet, but I genuinely believe the outcome is awesome. Next we'll look at a few moments later in the same final fight in Persona 5, specifically where Joker's Great Demon appears to finalize the fight with Yaldabaoth. This is the point where you are fighting the god of control who has forced society into being apathetic about the world's troubles, but with the strength of the confidants gained in Swear to My Bones, Joker's persona Satanael defeats him. Normally the song Yaldabaoth is playing throughout the fight, but Swear to My Bones acts as a transition between this song and New Beginning, which is the song we're listening to now. This song also includes the motif, of course. If I sounded like I repeated myself, that's because this is an important thing to keep in mind much later. Since I will be drawing more attention to context that this appears in, before moving on, I want to re-emphasize that Swear to My Bones utilizes this as a transition piece, in between parts of Yaldabaoth in the game, similar to the appearance marking the transition in Hoshito Bokura To. Now we know the sort of things required for something to be a motif based on what Shabu said earlier. It's more than it just sounding like it has similar notes. But for clarity, I'm going to let Shabu lay out exactly what this motif in particular is made out of, and what we looked for when diving through the OST.
The defining traits of a motif that we talked about earlier were rhythm, contour, and melody. The rhythm for this motif is pretty simple, honestly, and usually takes the shape of long, short, short, long. Contour is incredibly important, but unfortunately also a bit harder to explain. It's basically the shape of a melody, so how far apart notes are. An easy way to think of it is, if you draw lines between the notes, what does the line look like? If you're a nerd like me, then you know this as stepwise motion, leaps, or conjunct and disjunct motion. The contour for this motif is stepwise motion up, or a small incline up, then a leap up, or a sharp incline up, then the same note again, so a flat line if we're going with the line analogy. Last thing is melody, or more specifically intervallic content. How much space is between notes or pitches. This motif usually follows the rules of major second, perfect fifth, perfect unison. Perfect unison is just a fancy way of saying the same note again.
Since this is a motif and the nature of motifs is as they are, it should be no surprise that there are other songs as well from the soundtrack in Persona 5, either exactly or partially modified. Butterfly Kiss, for example, features the motif Wholesale. And Regret features a more sad-sounding modification on the motif, which I hope you will agree with me later on in the video makes perfect sense in terms of what I think the motif represents thematically. But we haven't gotten there yet. I promise that we're getting close. For now, we're going to begin the first of many interesting reveals. This motif that we've been talking about, that is all through the key moments of Persona 5's score and story, isn't even from Persona 5. Unfortunately, where it does come from requires me to spoil one of the biggest moments from Persona 2, Innocent Sin. I'll have a timestamp on screen if you wish to skip the Persona 2 spoilers now, and still wish to continue the video without that proper context, although the context for this is crucial to the point that I'll be making overall. 3, 2, 1, okay. The motif actually comes from a song called Dance of Death, or in the re-release, Maya Dies. This is the moment in Persona 2 that leads our cast to create the time split between Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment. One of the most important moments to the game, and here is where we see the track, Maya Dies. I understand this might be surprising or just seem like a coincidence, so allow me to give proper evidence that will hopefully turn however you may be feeling into belief. So the song Maya Dies is actually a combination of two songs. The first part of the song is the piano of Innocent Sin's original opening theme. So quickly looking at that song, the song gets to this point, goes quiet, and then the song rapidly changes. In Maya Dies, however, it neither goes quiet nor introduces this rapid change. Instead, it includes a few small bars that transition into a unique version of Maya's theme. She is the focus of the scene after all, so that makes sense. The thing is though, that transition into her theme between the two songs, which begins to reoccur through only this version of her theme, is the motif Wholesale. And it's not just that it is the exact same intervals and rhythm, which it is, it's that it's used contextually in the same way, being a peak moment in the game context and functioning as a transition in the piece itself. What happens in this scene as Maya endures her fatal blow is doing the right thing, realizing her oncoming death and telling the others to continue on without her, being courageous despite the bleak situation. While I think this is an insane connection alone, that is only the first step. Believe it or not, I haven't even got to my real evidence yet, or my final point. This is all still building, but it's important. So next, let's take a look at artistic intent. Shoji Meguro is the person known for composing Persona's music. doing most of the heavy lifting for Persona 3, 4, and 5. But someone might be able to push back and say, okay, but Megado didn't compose Maya's theme. And they're right. The composer was Kenichi Tsuchiya. But here's where it gets interesting. Shoji Megado oversaw the remakes of Persona 2 on PSP and also personally has rearranged a version of Maya's theme himself. That's the small stuff though. Shoji Megado might be the lead composer for Persona 5, but guess who the lead sound designer is? That's right, it's Kenichi Tsuchiya. But why this theme? Why this motif? Why Maya's theme, you might still reasonably be wondering. Well, Maya's theme is actually so much more important to Persona than you may realize. So now we're going to be looking at an interview with Tsuchiya himself. In this interview with the Japanese website Dengeki Online, Tsuchiya states that Maya's theme is his single favorite piece from Persona 2's score, and more than that, he mentions how it's remained popular with fans, specifically because he personally thinks that it represents the enduring nature of the Persona franchise as a whole. He likes it to shoulder pads, saying it represents this enduring nature, representing the sort of ability for someone to stand up on their own and take courage even when things are uncomfortable for them. He says that's what Maya's theme represents, which is the exact theme and context the song is used in Persona 5. That's not all. This isn't some old random interview either. This interview came out less than 2 weeks before the announcement of Persona 5 publicly. It was obviously something that had lasted a long time in his head and was still so present on his mind that he put it out there going into Persona 5's development. From here you start to notice a series of small coincidences in Persona 5's story and gameplay. Like how Persona 5 is the first game to include shadow negotiations since Persona 2. They are nowhere in Persona 3 and 4. And more so, the parallels between some of the characters. One major bad guy in Persona 2 is a man named Joker who runs a small cult of people called the Masquerade who, well, of course wear masks. Considering Persona 5's Beneath the Mask famously has the... I don't think it's hard to see parallels, even if just referential. This is pretty minor though. Before I get off topic, doesn't this make sense? The context that Swear to My Bones uses this motif is when the Phantom Thieves alone have the courage to stand up for what they believe in, literally, going against the god of control who has tried to force society to be apathetic. And the song from Persona 2, while Maya endures and pushes her friends to do what's right, it's so similar. Put this and more of it together. All of these usages of the motif are used as a transition, contextually and literally. The same people made and continue to remaster, rearrange, and remake these songs. The coincidences are too large. Maya's theme? And more so, this motif, I think, lives on as the beating heart of the Persona franchise, representing the core of what Persona has always stood for, despite your position in life, having the power within you to change the world, the power to endure, the power to muster your courage and fight back even when it gets bad. Atlus is known for thinking through their mythology, even down to naming characters certain things to remain consistent. With Atlus's track record and the never-ending line of coincidences, I hope to have presented in this video the proper amount of details, as there were plenty more small ones that I just didn't feel like I needed to include. It leads me to the connection I do, and I hope that you can see it now, too. To me, this is one of the most amazing things I've ever come across, true or not, and it started as me just noticing the motif between Hoshito Bokura to and that Persona 2 track mentioned earlier. This, of course, couldn't have been confirmed if I didn't have my great friend, fellow Persona fan, and professional composer Shabu to transcribe all of the music, confirm and deconfirm all of my theories and findings. I really don't want this video to flop. Please, if you could show any Persona fan that you know, it would mean so much to me. I can't express how much finding this means to me as a Persona fan personally. So I rarely ever say this for anyone who follows my channel consistently, but please, please, please share it, and continue researching on your own if you find this interesting, as Shabu and I did. A few hours after this video gets posted, I'll be starting my playthrough of Persona 5 Royal on Twitch. Basically, as soon as I get it in the mail, I'll just be popping it in the system and starting my stream. So please come by, and of course, check out Shabu's YouTube channel, which has a lot more music analysis. It will be linked at the end of the video and in the pinned comment. Thanks to my patrons who make this possible. The Single Way Out, Whizbang2093, Dolphinos, Frillneck Lizard, CJ Sam Lloyd, Jose Ramirez, and all of my other patrons. If you want more videos like this, please consider supporting me. I hope this was even half as amazing to some of you as it is to me, and I hope to see you all soon.
I love hiding in public. Subscribe to, and maybe subscribe to me.